All right, what's up, everybody? We are back. We got Yamaha here, Yamaha, David Novak with Yamaha. We're going to go over home and residential products to help you guys out. Really appreciate you guys being here throughout the day. David has been our contact for a while now. Is very knowledgeable of all the amplifier receiver products that we will go over. For you guys being here is 50 points for our live webinar, and we will, of course, have this recorded for you to view after the fact. And make sure to check out the Yamaha booth in our main hall if you can. So, David, really appreciate you being here for the next 45 minutes or so and going over the product lineup.
Yeah, great. Hi, everybody. And I really appreciate Mark, you and the team at 21st Century. You guys have been a fantastic and valued channel partner of Yamaha's for a long time. Always enjoy coming up and visiting with you guys at the various locations. And I know you guys do a fantastic job with Yamaha and taking care of your customers. So we definitely appreciate our partnership. So I know we have set up for questions in the chat. So I just have my screen set up with the presentation. So anybody feel free to interrupt. And, fortunately I'm remote, so you can't throw fruit or water bottles at me if I'm terrible. I will tell you, I do a lot of different things at Yamaha. I'm part of the Pro Audio division, which encompasses custom install dealers, reps, distributors, like 21st Century. So I have a pretty wide variety of product responsibilities. Today we're going to talk primarily about our AVRs, our immersive audio systems for homes. But I'm in a pretty cool place. I know you can't see it. I'm in Nashville at a location called Soundcheck Studios, and it's where a lot of bands come to actually set up their rigs before they go on tour, test them, see how they sound. And then we have a whole big room with a bunch of our Yamaha consoles so their engineers can come and mix that sound before you actually ever hear them on tour. So having said that, Yamaha's history, and first and foremost, is we're a musical instrument company. And we're the largest musical instrument company in the world. Give you just a couple of quick stats. 1 out of every 4 instruments sold in the world is a Yamaha. That's a lot of musical instruments. We're 6 times larger than the next musical instrument company. So, we kind of think we know how things are supposed to sound because we're the only company that is creating the instrument that makes the sound all the way down the chain to the amplifier, the processing, and in a lot of cases, even the speaker system, whether it's a live performance or an immersive audio experience in your home. So, we kind of think we know how things are supposed to sound. And, guess what? This is just a handful of artists that kind of think the same thing. I've been fortunate to see most of these artists in concert. I'm sure a lot of y'all have seen some of these artists as well perform. And what's interesting is these artists choose Yamaha instruments because of the way they sound. We don't give them a piano. We don't do anything. They chose Yamaha because they think it's the best sound. And again, we think that lends a lot of credibility to our electronic reproduction of these artists. Again, whether that's an immersive experience at home or a live performance. And I like live music. I think we all do, and we love our customers that like live music, that like to go to the movies, that like to have that emotional connection that music and movies can give them. So let's talk a little bit about our Avantage AV receivers. This is our flagship line, and one of the things that sets Yamaha apart, one of the many things, is our products, whether it's a consumer product or a commercial product, are a long-term investment for the customer. When I was an integrator for about 15 years before going over to the dark side of manufacturing, a credibility builder with my customers was I tell them, hey, this is the latest, greatest receiver. You got to have it. But if I went back to them the next year and said, you remember last year when I told you that was the latest, greatest. Well, really, this year is the latest, greatest. Well, a lot of customers don't want that. They want a long-term investment. So with Avantage, this line has been out a couple of years now, and we have constantly updated it through free firmware updates. And that firmware could add features, it could fix bugs. But the cool thing is, at least my experience has been now almost 8 years with Yamaha. My Avantage has not crashed on a firmware update. My app that I use to control it has not crashed. And some of the products I have that are in my Yamaha system are now coming up on 7 or 8 years old. So it's I kind of call it a sound investment. So with Avantage, you have up to 11 channels. We have what's called a fifth foot, and that foot is located right under the transformer to help mechanically ground and eliminate vibration. In really, really high-end gear, and I'm talking six-figure amps and preamps, you'll find that same concept of mechanical grounding. If you can get any vibration away from the piece of electronic gear, it enhances the sound. Huge transformers, very robust construction. We do have 8K HDMI 2.1 inputs, and we have a Qualcomm chipset, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute, that gives us that upgradability and that robustness and incredible processing power. The other part with Avantage is it's a 5-year warranty. And one of the things, when I go to trade shows, we were most recently at CEDIA, we were at Expona show in Chicago a few months before that, is the stories people tell. Yeah, I've got this old Yamaha CR, whatever. It's in my garage. It was my dad's, and it's 20 years old, and it's still going strong on my old JBLs. We hear those stories all the time about how robust, how the build quality maintains that standard of audio quality, and it becomes a lifelong audio investment. So let's talk about Qualcomm. This chipset that we chose is called an FPGA. I'm going to get a little computer nerdy, computer geeky here with you. An FPGA is what's called a field programmable gateway array. And in computer technology, that's a very expensive way to continuously update the capabilities. You don't see FPGAs in a lot of consumer audio gear. We chose this, and the key phrase here is field programmable. What does that mean to you guys? That means you have a ton of processing power, 7 times more than our previous 3080 platform. You have room for growth. It's easily configurable. Those firmware updates that we've done over the past few years have added feature sets, have added performance, have added sound quality. And guess what? Yamaha's probably not done. There's still room for growth and the ability to add improvements. And that gives us that flexibility with firmware upgrades. Yamaha consistently has done a tremendous job with network configuration, firmware upgrades, and testing before they ever release them. And if you have any questions about that, you certainly can communicate that with me. If you're unsure of how those firmware upgrades work, we're more than happy to work with you on those. Okay. So I mentioned build quality. In the pro world, when a group is on tour, the system has to work all the time. So Yamaha consoles, Yamaha amplifiers, Yamaha speakers, they have to work all the time in a very rugged environment. That idea, that concept, that belief is shared within our consumer space. So we do things like the amplifier section is symmetrical. So you have very short signal paths. You avoid crosstalk. You have optimum cooling. Okay. A lot of these things you only see in extremely high-end amplifiers. And if you notice those 3 little gray boxes up on the top, believe it or not, we custom make heat sinks for the HDMI boards. And Yamaha just doesn't source anybody's off-the-shelf chipsets. We are very particular when it comes to every individual component that goes into an Avantage receiver. The design you see of that AVR on the right, look at the piece on the left. That's our flagship $8,000 integrated amplifier. $8,000 for a stereo integrated amp. See a lot of similarities there. A lot of similarities in the build quality. Okay, so what does true sound mean? Well, these three key qualities: tonal balance, dynamics, and imaging of the sound. We want to express that sound. We want that playback. We want that immersive experience for your customer in their home to represent what the artist intended. And we want to give that emotional connection. You know, I'll be the first to admit, I'm a very emotional guy when it comes to music. When I hear Andre Bocelli sing "Time to Say Goodbye," yeah, I'll cry a little bit. You know, I'm not ashamed to say that. It just hits me. Something about that hits me. You know, a lot of homeowners, a lot of customers that you do systems with, you want that emotional context. When you're watching Greatest Showman and that scene where she's singing Never, and it's just powerful and emotional, and you know, you feel that and you see it on the screen. So how do we get there?
Tom feels the same way with New Kids on the Block, just so you know.
Okay, right on. Well, you know, if you date yourself, you could say, if you remember that movie Stripes, when he goes, "How many cried when Old Yeller died? Come on, don't be embarrassed. How many cried?" So, yeah, New Kids on the Block. That's a good one. So, so tonal balance. You know, you want musical instruments and voices represented accurately and completely. Anybody ever told you, you know, why is that center channel so important? Well, if you can't hear the dialogue, you can't hear what's being said, those voices aren't reproduced accurately, you know, what good is the rest of the system? Okay. So you want that very accurate tonal balance. You want dynamics. Dynamics, you know, when you talk about dynamic range, that's the difference between the quietest passage and the loudest passage. You want the amplifier section to go from 0 to Mach 3 in a Top Gun jet instantaneously. It needs to have that massive power supply. It needs to have those big capacitors that can deliver that instantaneous. If it's a live music performance and you know somebody just slams down on the guitar and it just again goes from, you know, stand still to you're moving at the speed of light. Dynamics is what can make or break an immersive audio experience in a home theater. And imaging, you know, this can be, you know, I look at imaging, great example. So some of the old 60s British bands, Beatles, The Who, Rolling Stones, you would have a guitar come out of one speaker, the bass come out of the other speaker, the drums centered, you know, right in the middle, and the vocals right in the middle. You want the imaging of what's going on screen to be placed precisely. Or if it's just you're listening to music, you're listening to streaming, or whatever the case may be, you want that system to reproduce, as it says here, the mood and the atmosphere of the content. If you're in an immersive performance in a home theater and that jet flies, you know, bottom left to top right, you want that imaging to be precise. So these three things really are what make up the true sound nature of an Avantage receiver. So talk a little bit about the receiver line. There's 4 of them in the line, A2, A4, A6, and A8. You know, I'm not the smartest or sharpest guy, so I like short model numbers. They're kind of easy to remember. Similar look, similar feel. We'll talk about some specifics as we keep going, but I think actually this grouping of slides really kind of is a great representation of what the differences are. And Mark, for your team and your customers, we can certainly provide this slide because it's a really great way to just simply look at, okay, if I move to an A2 to a 4, what do I get? 10 more watts a channel, you know, a different DAC, you get a different video board. When I move from a 4 to a 6, what I get? More channels that are processed, a little bit more power, more zones, balanced. So you guys take a look at this, because again, when you're talking to a customer and you're trying to decide, well, what's the best Avantage receiver for this particular application? Do I need a zone 2? Do I need a zone 3? Is it going to be 11 channels processing? Is it just a basic 7.1? Okay, this will allow you to really easily see what the differences are in the receivers. Now, I will tell all you people out there that the 4, 6, and 8, they do share similarities. Those 3 units all have the Qualcomm chipset, and they all have the higher end HDMI video board, which is the full 40 gig 8K 60 video board. So when I'm talking to dealers or I'm working with our field sales engineer team and we're helping a dealer design a system, which by the way, we can do that for you. I always like to sell from the top down. I never wanted to start with the least expensive box, for lack of a better word. It's harder to sell up than it is to sell down. The receiver from the Avantage line that really has hit the sweet spot with most dealers and most projects that I see is the A6, because it will do 11.2 processing. It only has 9 amplified channels, so if you want a full 11.2 with onboard amps, you do have to move to the 8. But a lot of people will tend to use, an outboard amplifier, maybe for the left and right on the balance side, or maybe they want to use a higher powered outboard high-end amp for the LCRs. But the A6 seems to really hit that sweet spot because of some of the things I just said, that future upgradability with the Qualcomm chipset and the higher end HDMI video board. That's what I have in my house. And it sounds awesome.
It says zone 2 and zone 3. What zone powered is the A6 again?
So the A6 has powered zone 2. The A8 can do powered zone 2 and zone 3. So the A6 really, the difference between the 6 and the 8 is simply those 2 extra amplifiers. That's really the only difference between the 2.
Got it.
Okay. So I have the 6 at home, again, because I work with more projects that need, either a 7.1 or a 9.2. And the A6, like I said, kind of fits that sweet spot. Not that, the A2 is a bad piece. It's a great receiver, and it fits a nice price point. But when you think about the sales process and you're talking to your customer and you're asking them questions, one of the things is I never say, what do you want it to do? Because now you've opened Pandora's box. I always say, how are you going to use it? Do you want to be able to use speakers outside on the patio and use your phone to control those through the MusicCast app? So, really listening to the customers and how they want to use it, looking at their budget. The 4 units here really give you a broad spectrum of price points, a broad spectrum of capabilities, but they all share that true sound. They all share that high-end build quality from Yamaha. So I guess the takeaway there is, doesn't everybody want to have a higher average sales price on the systems they install? Well, start out with the customer talking about the 6 and the 8 and give them the opportunity to say, no, that doesn't really fit my budget. And you say, okay, well, we've got the A4. It always made sense to me. Okay. I think we're doing okay on time. So let's talk about some of the setup. So, every AVR out there has some sort of speaker and calibration setup. We call ours YPAL. It's been updated over the last few years, and it is built into the receivers. It doesn't require a license fee. It doesn't require you to pay somebody to download some fancy software or anything. It's all built in. And We even provide you the room microphone and very clear instructions. We can, get a little deeper into this now if you want, or, if anybody has questions about some specifics with YPOW, I'd be more than happy to take that offline and set up a direct call, and we can look at my A6 online and look at it. But again, keep in mind that room calibration is a lot of science, but it's also a lot of art. None of them, even ours, gets everything 100% correct. You still have to do a little tweaking. But what ours does is it gives you the tools to compensate for bad speaker placement. Maybe there's a door on one side, maybe the left rear surround is not the same distance as the right rear. It allows the system to get a very accurate baseline calibration, EQ, distance, height, Atmos channels, low frequency channels, all of that, because the goal is we want a uniform, immersive sound field. Okay. I can't see a show of hands, but I would wager that most rooms that you guys are doing these systems in are not perfect. Okay. They're not a perfect shoebox like a performing arts center theater is. And so our YPOW calibration can do a lot of compensation for that. And one of the cool things I like, because I like to tweak a little bit, I can get the baseline of the calibration, then I can save that in the receiver, and I can go in and say, I like a little bit more bass, or I'm going to raise the, maybe the low frequency in the parametric EQ. I'm going to kick it up a decibel or two, or maybe I want a little bit more center channel. So Yamaha will allow you to just run the calibration and be done, and it's going to sound awesome. It really sounds spectacular. My room is by no means perfect. It's a typical family room, right? With an entrance on one side where one speaker is and three corners of the room. But when I looked at it, pre and post, just turning it on and playing something and then letting it calibrate and do everything, it was like night and day. So we definitely have some incredible tools. And I'll just say, based on Yamaha acoustician experience in the pro world, I can see where a lot of this YPOW calibration was derived from. We're doing immersive audio systems that have over 200 speakers in performing arts centers. We're designing concert halls, theaters, and we're a pretty big company. So I can see where a lot of this YPOW calibration has come from, and it works. It works extremely well. Okay, this is one of the coolest things. I love this. In the good old days when I was doing installs, you'd be sitting there, programming things, doing scenes, doing levels, doing all this stuff, and the customer's standing behind you. It's late on a Friday. He's got friends coming over, and it's like, when are you going to be done? When are you going to be done? Well, we have a web set up so that you can actually go online either at the customer's house, but what a lot of our dealers do is they'll take the receiver out in their office, put it on the network, and go through this entire web setup and basically can do everything except the calibration, because of course that has to be done in the customer's room. But you can set things like turn on volume, what are the speakers, small or large format. You see all the tabs there. So hopefully you're charging for this, because none of these systems you can just take out of the box and they just simply work. And this is a great way for added revenue for those projects, is to set everything up on the receiver before you ever install it. You can save all of this to a thumb drive or save it on your computer. So maybe when you go to the vacation house and that customer buys another A6 for their vacation house, and they like this receiver, the scenes and the volume and everything to be similar, now you can take that, hour or two that you spend here and make it a 1 or 2 minute download to that receiver and bill again, charge again. Okay. The other thing I like too is, God forbid there's a lightning strike or some catastrophe in the house and the receiver gets affected. Well, now you have all those parameters saved that you can reload into the next receiver. This is an incredibly powerful tool. There's even some existing Yamaha dealers that never knew this, but dealers that have never had Yamaha experience just rave about the web setup. And again, really very simple to use. Everybody still on? We still doing good, Mark?
Doing great. Yeah, we have some questions, but we could address them after. You're on a roll.
Okay, cool. So we were talking about the zone. So here's the RX A8. So main zone, you know, full immersive experience, and then you've got a powered zone 2 and a powered zone 3. Well, hopefully you guys are doing a lot of zones, and we make a cool little product called the Quad Streamer. It does have a long, complicated name, but again, I'm not the engineer. I didn't name it. We just call it a Quad Streamer. It's basically a 4-zone with 4 streaming amplifiers built in, single rack space, 8-channel by 50 watts. Okay, so you could conceivably say, okay, I want my main zone to do the immersive experience in the theater. I'll take the zone 2 power out of the receiver to drive the kitchen, and my zone 3 pre-out into my Quad Streamer to get even more zones. Well, guess what? We can get really crazy. So I can actually stack multiple Quad Streamers up to 32 independent powered zones with 32 independent streams. Okay, what does that mean? Are you guys following me? So I can have one Pandora channel playing in one room, another Pandora channel, a third Pandora, a Sirius, 32 independent streams off of these Quad Streamers. So it makes it really, really easy and very powerful if it's a new build, or maybe you're just going to pre-wire some zones, and as the customer's budget allows, you just slap a Quad Streamer in, connect it, it's on the network, and you're done. And by the way, the Quad Streamers also have the web setup, the web interface. Okay. So we talked about streaming, right? So all the streaming services are available. The AVRs also have a USB port on them. So I have some high-res 48K 24-bit WAV files that I have on a thumb drive that I just leave in the A6. So when, you know, friends come over to cook out, I'm from the South. I live in Birmingham, right? And so we barbecue, we cook out all the time. And I really want to show off the system. I'll start with music, and I'll play some tracks off that thumb drive, and then we'll get into you know, some streaming, and then, you know, some scenes off of a movie. So we handle all the different services. Okay, so we have our own app, right? All the cool kids use phones and tablets now with apps. So ours is called MusicCast app. And if you don't require a control system, if you just need real simple control of the AVR and the multiple zones, you can do that through an app that we've created, and it works on phones as well as tablets. I will tell you, we've probably done 6 updates to it in the last, I don't know, 2 years maybe. Every one of them has gone, you know, fine. Haven't had any crashes. Haven't, you know, I've had no dealers tell me, oh, we updated the app, we updated the firmware, and now I got to do a truck roll that I can't charge for. It's like, well, that's other guys. That's not Yamaha. Again, our engineers do a really, really good job of firmware and of network things when they do it. So not a huge learning curve on our app. It's pretty simple. You select a room, select the music. If you want to link room, you just hit the link button, and you can control volume in all the rooms. You can control sources in all the rooms. So makes it really easy. We use it at home, and just, again, don't have any issues with it. It works. And I'm a control system guy. I worked for Control 4, I worked for AMX, I worked for Kaleidoscape, and all were very labor intensive control system implementation. Speaking of which, there you go. So all of, I guess these are all of them. There might be something that we missed. Control systems, voice assistants, monitoring, and integration are all available on the Avantage platform. And here's something I think that is really a key point here for you guys, because control systems can either be your best friend or your worst enemy. and I'm not playing favorites with any of them. We have one protocol for all of our Avantage units and anything that has MusicCast. One protocol. So when we talk to a control system manufacturer, they can develop a driver that's basically a universal driver for all of the products. And I can tell you in my house, when I got my A6 and I put it on the network, I happen to use Control 4. I've used the others, but currently I use Control 4. The Control 4 system said, oh, there's an Avantage A6. I know exactly what to do with it. Click, driver download, and I'm done. And it just works. So having again, from an engineering standpoint, having your devices easily controllable from the control system is going to be key to you guys spending less time trying to figure out what's wrong, more time selling more systems and having happy customers. Okay, kind of coming down to the home stretch, then we can have some questions. We do make really nice high-end 2-channel products. We make a line of network receivers called RN. There's 4 of them in the line. And I got to tell you, this is a real killer differentiator when you're talking to your customers. Yeah, I want an immersive experience. I want that home theater in the family room or in my dedicated room, but I have an office. And that's my place to go to escape everybody. What do you got for my office? Well, we can put a network receiver in there. We can put a pair of bookshelves, or maybe there's a man cave, or maybe you know, the wife of the house is a music lover. Maybe she's an artist as well. This is a really, really cool vertical market that I highly recommend you guys think about. Number one, it's not inexpensive. And we talked earlier, we all like to sell more expensive products. That network receiver, that particular one, is a $4,000 2-channel analog meets digital, and it has MusicCast. So guess what? You could sell a Yamaha turntable, or, you know, some of you guys that do high-end turntables, and plug it into that. And the turntable can be digitized on the MusicCast network and sent to the immersive audio experience in the theater, or vice versa. Whatever's playing in the theater, even if it's an HDMI source, we handle all of the down mixing, and we synchronize all of the clocks so that they're all perfectly synced. Now, watching the game on Saturday can go to the receiver. So again, I highly recommend you guys take a look at this. These are all in stock. We have gone over the capabilities with these with a lot of the teams at 21st. They are fully authorized to work with you guys on these products, and it's just another way to get more systems in the customer's house, raise that average selling price, and make more money. You know, we all love what we do, but I think we all have, you know, I have a kid in college, I got a car payment, I got a mortgage. I like to make money too. So anyway, be thinking about this. If there's specific questions about this, we showed these at CEDIA and got rave reviews. And finally, last slide I want to show you, this is the RN2000, that previous receiver. And the build quality on this thing is, it's a combination of Ferrari performance with an Abrams M1 tank build quality. The transformer alone on this piece is about 18 pounds. This whole thing weighs about 55 pounds. So really proud of this piece. I've got one in my house as well. And sometimes I just like to have that 2-channel music experience and sit down and just enjoy it. So something a little different for you guys to think about. And that's it.
Really good. Thank you, David. Really appreciate you taking us through the entire lineup. Do have some questions. If you can hold on here for another 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, sure. Do I need to leave this up, or do I need to turn my camera on?
Actually, why don't you do this? Why don't you stop sharing your screen and show everybody where you are?
Face.
Do that?
Yeah. Okay.
Can you,
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you guys can see this, some of these consoles are $250,000, and some of the touring groups have 3 of them. Garth Brooks' last tour a couple of years ago had 3 of them, 2 for the show and 1 for broadcast. We have an immersive mixing you see up here on the ceiling, speaker system, and so yeah.
And that's where you said in Tennessee?
With the artists, you know.
Where in Tennessee you said?
Did I miss? Did I lose sound?
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you. Okay.
You said where in Tennessee again?
So this is in Nashville. This is called
This is in
Soundcheck
Nashville.
Studio.
Okay.
It's basically a giant warehouse that is divided up into spaces where, I mean, they can hang trusses and, you know, do lighting. Bands will come here and you know, kind of set up before they go on tour or go. I just saw Riley Green's bus out front. There were a couple other bands that were here this week. And then their front of house engineers can come in to our audio lab. We'll do a press release on this soon. Again, I'm not saying you guys do this, but this is kind of the Yamaha family, right? We're mixing the audio on these consoles. And those artists that you saw, I'd say almost all of them when they're on tour are also using Yamaha consoles. So that just gets back to, you know, when you're talking to the customer about that emotional experience, it's like, yeah, Yamaha, you know, they mixed the concert that you guys just went and saw, and that concert is going to be on DVD in a few months. So you'll be able to have that experience at home with the Yamaha Avantage system that you heard mixed on a Yamaha console.
And we also sell the Yamaha professional line as well. For those who out there that don't know that. Okay, so just some questions and we'll wrap it up. Can I use the A8 receiver instead of 7.1 plus 4 power amp and processor?
So the A8 is an 11.2 processing with assignable amplifier. So it's designed to power those channels and still give you the zone 2 and 3. So I don't know if that answers the question or not. So 4 of those channels are going to be Atmos channels, 2 front, 2 rear, 2 side, LCR, and 2 rear, and then the LFE. And it does have dual subwoofer outs that can be configured left, right stereo, left, right mono, front, back. Is that?
Yeah, okay. Let's see. Seems like whoever does a firmware update on the V6, various customers, a unit stops passing video, but audio still works. Firmware update, servers called and back up and running, no equipment changes at all, but they've had numerous times that happens. Have you heard anything about that?
So the V6 and the A2 share the same video board. It's not the 40 gig full bandwidth 2.1 board. It's a 2.1 board that will do 4K, but the handshaking is not as fast. That's another reason to use the 4, 6, and 8. Handshaking is instantaneous, and I've timed it when I hit watch TV at home. Just to give you a little bit of background, you know, you hear all the relays, everything comes on. I get sound and picture at the same time. My suggestion would be to take a look at HDMI cables you're using. How is the TV set up? Because there are adjustments, and I'm not a TV guy. I do have a tips and tricks sheet that I got from Samsung Engineering on that. There's menus within the TV to set up the HDMI format, handshaking, ARC, eARC. All TVs have that. And our receivers have the ability to independently set all those things up as well. So I guess you really have to look at the sum of the entire system. And Mark, if you want to get that particular person's contact information, I'm more than happy to reach out directly or have one of our tech support people reach out directly, because there's so many permutations of HDMI setups. It's an infinite number. Oh, you're muted, Mark. Sorry, can't hear you.
Sorry, and Eric as well had a question about HDMI sync issues. So why don't you contact your rep and we'll get you in touch with David. We'll get those questions answered. Especially as you know, HDMI it's so finicky. On the A 3080, there's no 5.1 predefined, so zone 2 and zone 3 seem hard to establish. What am I doing wrong?
On the 3080 or the A8?
This looks like the 3080.
Okay, so that's the previous generation receiver. Uh, I don't have an answer because I'd have to look at that online. So
Okay.
that's another one we'll have to take offline. Sorry.
Just picked up this S71. Sounds amazing. Driver solid. Access to NAS Drive and NAS Music or Apple Music.
I believe, is there an app for that for Apple Music? Is that app driven, like, or is it like Spotify where when you choose Spotify, it drives through that app? I guess if it's a streaming service, that's available, it should be available through the app. Now, I have an Apple TV 4K, but I don't have Apple Music. So again, apologies. I don't have an exact answer on that. So I'll have to talk to tech support about that.
And I'll send you this list of questions too, if you could get those things where you get back to everybody. Why issues with WXC and WXA saying paired in MusicCast?
Saying pair, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Same question. Why issues with WXC and WXA saying paired in MusicCast? Same question with AV receivers and MusicCast. I think he said maps, but I think he means apps.
Pair. Does that mean pairing with the MusicCast app? Is that what the question is?
Yeah, I think he said he said maps. I think that means apps. Yeah.
Okay. So when you set up the MusicCast for the first time, you've got the receiver on the network or the WXA, WXC, which are the little streaming amplifiers or streaming preamp. It creates its own, network to your phone to set up all the parameters. So I have seen, because of whatever and I'm an iPhone guy, so I'll just use that as an example. If you're on an iOS version or the app is not updated to the latest version, sometimes that initial pairing link will drop off, or maybe it takes a little. We all want instant gratification. We want things to do like that. And sometimes, and I've run into this occasionally, where I'm just not giving it enough time for that initial pairing, and I'll say, let me start over, or let me start over. So the other thing, when that initial pairing, I think the recommendation is to make sure all your other apps are closed and make sure the phone doesn't go into timeout or a dark screen. Okay. So little things like that. Again, we can take that a little bit offline. That might be a specific issue to that particular install. But I will tell you, once the units are on the network and your network is good, again, if the network isn't good, all bets are off. But I can tell you, in my traveling demo, I have a WXC50, which is a 7-year-old MusicCast player. We don't make it anymore because there were no more chipsets available. Stay tuned for the next generation. But I can tell you, when I travel, and that unit's been off for a month, and I go to when I come to 21st, or I go to a dealer's, or I go to an event and I plug everything back in, that thing comes right back online, and my MusicCast app sees it on my phone. So it's solid once you get past that initial pairing, which sometimes can be a little not 100% perfect.
So we're getting, I was keeping this with MusicCast. Getting a couple questions here about the WXA50 being discontinued, and if there's a replacement coming for that, as well as maybe some of the box speakers like sound bars. Any update there?
So Yamaha, not like most manufacturers, Yamaha doesn't talk about the product roadmap while it's being developed for a number of reasons, obviously competitive reasons. But at the same time, we're not sitting back saying, oh, Avantage is good enough, we're just going to leave it alone. We're in the middle of our next 3 to 5 year plan and this is a global plan. Again, Yamaha's a global company. And part of that plan is what are the next generation of products, and this goes across everything: commercial audio, consoles, and consumer audio. So yes, I believe there will be a replacement. I don't have a crystal ball. I haven't seen a picture from Yamaha engineering or marketing saying this is the replacement. But keep in mind, as I said, WXA, WXC is about a 7 or 8 year old device. Okay, so you just can't find chipsets for that. We can't manufacture them. We can't, there's no supplier of those older chipsets. It's kind of like, a 7 or 8 year old laptop that's not running the latest Windows. A lot of things just won't work on it. So having said that, the opposite is true. That WXA, WXC you sold to the customer 7 years ago is still relevant today because of the firmware updates. Now, granted, it's what we call a Generation 1 MusicCast. It's not like Avantage, not like the Quad Streamers, which are Generation 2, which add additional streaming sources. So kind of a long-winded way to say, I believe there will be a replacement. I wouldn't hold my breath. Unfortunately, we're sold out. I think when we told 21st that a while back, and this was probably 6 months ago, 4 to 5, 6 months ago. They were one of the smarter ones, and you guys, I think, bought almost every one we had to take care of your customers. So that was good. So when you're designing a system, yeah, we just right now don't have that product. Same goes for sound bars. I think we'll see some additional sound bars in the very near future. We really didn't touch on that in this presentation. We do make a pretty cool sound bar with wireless surround speakers that is very affordable, that sounds good. It's an Atmos sound bar, does not have MusicCast. But again, Yamaha in their planning, they're looking at 3, 5, and 10-year plans for everything. So yeah, I wish we still had it because it's a cool piece. We used them a lot in commercial audio projects. But right now, the Quad Streamer and the RN303, which is an entry-level network receiver, has kind of taken the place of the WXA, WXC.
Very good. We got to get going for our next one. Really appreciate you, David. Great presentation. We will see everybody on the next call, guys. We're still working on the food court Grubhub gift cards, so bear with us as those are continuing to get entered. So we have a lot of people in our Roadshow. So it's been great. We'll get this figured out. Thank you so much.
I appreciate everyone. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, 21st Century team, and again, everybody out there. We're more than happy to support your efforts and